to another episode of Witty CFB. Your host, Rob Sheply here. And on today's episode, I'm just going to give a quick shout out to, one of my favorite, most underrated coaches in all of college football. I just wanted to give a shout out to Jeff Tedford. And as you guys know, he is stepping down due to some ongoing health issues. He, stepped away back in 2019 after the 2019 season for some health issues, and then he came back and coached in 2022 and 2023, led them to Mountain West Conference Championship in 2022, and now he's stepping aside, and Tim Skipper, who is their linebacker coach and the assistant head coach, is going to be taking over as the interim coach. I would say, as anyone who's a fan of college football, you should be pretty upset. I think he's going to be one of those coaches where we look back on it maybe 10 years from now and we talk about who are some of those, unsung heroes of, college football, who's, influenced a lot of different coaches and a lot of different offensive philosophies. To me, I think Mike Leach is posthumously one of the most obvious ones. But I think another one that I think a lot of the time really goes under the radar is Jeff Tedford. Now, granted, he did have that 1 year stint as Lovie Smith's offensive coordinator that didn't work out. But, he had 11 great seasons at UCal, finishing with an overall record of 82-57. I mean, who can't forget the 2006-2007 season when, 2007 when they were ranked as high as number 2. And then, the backup quarterback Riley came in and, they kind of blundered that, and then after that, they kind of tanked after that. But, I think it goes to show that, in general, he's definitely one of the most determined, hardworking coaches, and, it definitely upset me a little bit because I know, kind of going to this Big 12 season, I think, granted, if we're talking about the Mountain West, I think obviously, to me, the best team in that conference is Boise State, and then UNLV is a close number 2. But man, I know he's getting up there a little bit of age with, being 62, but I was really excited to see, kind of could they pull off one more conference championship and possibly get into a playoff with him there again, because I think out of all the college coaches where I think to myself, man, it would be really cool to see him get another really great run. He's definitely one of the first guys that I think of. And in general too, I mean, he's had a ton of great success coaching, the likes of, Marshawn Lynch and Aaron Rodgers and, a bunch of those different guys too. So, it is unfortunate that that's happening. And, I understand that ultimately he has to do what's best for himself. But, I do kind of look back and hope that, his legacy is ultimately a positive one. I would love to see him come back and coach again. But I wouldn't be surprised if this was kind of his last song right here. Maybe he'll come back as an analyst or something like that. But it just seemed, when he came back, it just seemed like such a natural fit for him to be there again. And it's definitely unfortunate that it kind of ended that way too. But in general, he really has gone all over. I mean, he had, I talked briefly about him at, with Tampa, with Lovie Smith. He was the head coach of the DC Lions for a little bit. But I think ultimately, his legacy really, for me, it's going to be remembered at UCal, because as far as I know right now, he's still the most winningest coach at that program. And, for the most part too, he really, for the most part, let me see, out of all these games, he has been in a bowl game for, outside of maybe, 8 out of the 11 seasons. So, the one thing that I think people are admiring about him is his offensive philosophy and his creativity. I think his hard work and his dedication. He's a phenomenal recruiter, and somebody who I think anybody would want to play their ass off for. And I think lastly, it's just I think it's one of the biggest what ifs. One of the what ifs I kind of think about too is, you know, what would have happened if UCal could have been, you know, number one in that 2007 season? Like, where could they have gone? And, you know, could he have possibly maybe taken a higher ceiling job at another Pac-12 school, or, you know, maybe he goes elsewhere and kind of lives it up there. But, you know, I just wanted to give him a quick shout out on here because, you know, he is a coach that I respect, I admire, and I think somebody that we're going to look back on 10 years later and definitely wonder, you know, what would have happened if, you know, some of those health concerns didn't come up. But we're wishing him a speedy recovery, and, you know, I'm like I said, I'd love to see him on a sideline again, but, you know, if the health concerns end up, you know, creeping back up and that was his last ride, then, you know, I'm just happy to say that I'm just happy to see that we did get to see him another 2 seasons out on the football field, and, you know, hoping he's going to be all right.